So how does intuition play a part in the way we use our brain?
Well, intuition is letting the whole of your brain flow. You know, we think so much of as left brain people of the logical side of our brain. But intuition is often built upon a base of experience and all of one's life experience, and it grows over time. And so, yes, it's the right side of the brain, but it's letting all those creative side of your brain flow so you can think creatively about the world and how you see things, and be able to take a series of relatively disparate thoughts and put them together in some kind of integrative whole. And I think that's where great decisions and great ideas come from. The challenges we face today of poverty, of overpopulation, of our environment, energy in the environment, of education, of war, of global health, those problems are intractable, have been around for a very long time. Why? Because we haven't brought ideas together from different disciplines. If you just keep trying to solve the problem the same way you have and you've failed, you're just going to repeat history. If you try to eliminate war just by doing what you've been doing the last 200 years, you're just going to keep going to have more wars.
First thing that I ask people to do is just go out into nature and see if you can sit in nature for 5 minutes, experiencing nature through all of your senses without thinking. For most modern people, that's really tough. You know how we look for stuff outside ourselves? Oh, it's over there, oh, it's over there, I have to take another course, I have to... It's awareness here and now on the world, and that's everything. You know, modern people in general are really not in touch with intuition. They're not in touch with how we know things. We have let our awareness drift from the world around us to the world that we have made, the world of form, the world of our maps going from A to B to C, the world of strategy, the world of milestones and deadlines and endpoints. And we've forgotten how to be aware of the world around us, of sensory data, of many of the dimensions of life. Imagine our beautiful average 3-pound brain. 98% of our brain does not use language or logic or belief or strategy. It creates those things for us, but it doesn't use them. The other 2% receives what the 98% creates and goes out in the world and takes an action, goes to the grocery store, goes to work, comes home, that sort of thing. That's what neuroscientists call our relational mind. It's in relationship, it's making relationship between bits of data. The linear mind is the 2% left over. 2% of 3 pounds is 0.96 ounces, which is barely 2 tablespoons of brain tissue. I give this to my students. I think, consider this, people. You are awake in a scant 2 tablespoons of your brain, and what about the rest of it, right?
So how does one listen to his or her intuition?
We start with tiny little practices that you can do between your front door and the car, literally. You can do them at stoplights. You can do them in the grocery store. In fact, you should. Tiny little exercises that teach you how to bring awareness to your sensing intelligence, how to actually feel the world. The Polynesians were able to map almost the entire Pacific Ocean without a tool because they listened to the ocean. They were totally connected through their senses, and they passed that knowledge down through at least 8 generations, and nobody forgot a detail. You have to have your awareness on the world around you. We can't do that anymore.
When Marty told me about the ancient Polynesian navigators who had this extensive capacity that we have lost, I could hardly believe it. But the more I found out about them, the more curious I became. I wanted to know what scientists today think. The marine ecologist Enrik Sala resigned from a university position to be able to explore the ocean firsthand.
I am an ocean explorer. I spend a lot of time going to places of which we know very little about. The most remote places in the ocean. Places without people, without fishing. Places that are like time machines that look like the ocean 500 years ago. If we knew what we were going to find, we wouldn't go. That experience, spending a lot of time studying and observing this pristine ecosystem, the ocean of the past, has helped me enormously to develop this intuition about what's wrong with the ocean today and also how to bring it back. And I love the example of the Polynesian navigators, where these people on small canoes traveled for hundreds of miles on unknown, uncharted ocean without knowing where they were going. They had an amazing amount of knowledge about the system. They knew the waves, the currents, the clouds, the winds, the stars. They could read the state of the sea. They could know if there was an island in the distance because of the reflection on a cloud. So they had this intuition about whether there was land where they were going. The Polynesians had collected that massive amount of knowledge over many generations, and it became part of their collective unconscious. And that happened many centuries ago. And the Polynesians didn't have our GPS and computer technology. They had stick charts. If you put somebody from the middle of Europe in one of these canoes in the Pacific Ocean, I'm telling you, they are not going to last very long. They were able to do that only because they spent so much time experiencing the ocean firsthand. Now, we still have explored less than 5% of the ocean. That's what makes that ancient knowledge so extraordinary.
Our brains are constantly evolving, depending on how we feel, think, and what we experience. This affects how we build knowledge. But today, we are bombarded with information and distraction all the time. How can intuition help us sense the world and our place in it more wisely?
Intuition is not just some pink and fluffy feeling. Intuition is the awareness of the subtle stuff which lies outside the focus of attention. The stuff that we're aware of subliminally, unconsciously, and if we spend too much time in the stance of our very focused conscious mind, we will not see why that should be important. It doesn't seem to be present, it doesn't seem to matter, one therefore cuts it out. But in fact, in doing so, we're cutting out most of what it is we know, because, in fact, very little of our mental processes are conscious. Most of them, at least 95%, possibly nearer to 99% of them, are not conscious at all. And they act to alert us to things that our rather slow conscious mind may not be aware of. They therefore are often implicit things, subtle things. For example, you may meet a person and you cannot put your finger on it. This person seems extremely friendly, gives messages that make you want to trust them. But at some level you think there's something wrong here, and you cannot actually articulate what it is. And of course you might be wrong. But very often, you are picking up something very important, because when we communicate, most of our communication is not in fact explicit at all. It's in tone of voice, it's in implied meaning in the choice of words, it's in metaphor, humor, irony, and so on. So intuition is in touch with those things, and so to rule it out is to miss most of the wise things that we could know.
I met Tan Lee while studying. Last time I heard, she was designing brain scans. We wanted to know if intuition can be seen in the brain.
Intuition, it's something that we haven't studied in any great detail. This idea of being able to measure or even observe intuition is a new phenomenon. I think in the last decade, there's been more interest from a science standpoint to try and quantify and understand intuition. But I think early findings suggest that it will be possible for us to understand the frameworks that really form the basis for allowing us to have this sense of knowledge from within.
You know, if you think about it, why do we feel we need to measure everything, including intuition? As if it's something that we can quantify. Apparently, we have hundreds of neurons in our stomach that affect the decisions we take. All the moments I've felt a knot in my stomach, or my stomach has been full of butterflies. What are these feelings telling me? And can I trust them?